Good evening, everyone. My name's Terry Rooch, and this is Serious Automotive Training. This is module number 10 for the motor vehicle safety, initial inspection, and recertification prep classes offered on YouTube. Again, my classes have nothing to do with PennDOT. I'm not affiliated with PennDOT, but my prior teaching, working in vocational schools, working in community colleges, and teaching for the military for the past 10 years has allowed me to assist you with passing the recert or the initial cert for the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Inspection Mechanic. So tonight we're going to finish up with Module 10. We have a small portion in Subchapter A that we need to complete before we move on to Subchapter B. So tonight we're going to be using reference materials. Publication 645, we're going to discuss the enhanced vehicle safety inspection. We're going to use publication 45, which is the vehicle equipment inspection procedure booklet. And we're also going to talk about bulletins. Tonight is bulletin night. The first thing I want to talk about to get everybody all up and excited about learning about vehicle safety, on this month in 98, that's 1898, over 100 years ago, the first vehicle was sold in Pennsylvania. It was sold from a dealer in Philadelphia, and the first car that they sold was to a person in Port Carbon, all the way up in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. So on March 24th, 1898, the first vehicle was sold. Why is that important? Because here we are over 100 years later. We are one of the first to implement a motor vehicle safety inspection program in 1929. And also to have an emission program, and we're still up and running. So let's get started here with subchapter A. If you're following along with publication 45, I'm all the way at the back at 175.4, and we have a list of exempt vehicles that do not require inspection. These are important to know because you're going to need to know this for your recertification or your initial certification exam. So if we look at the top 10 list here, I call them exempt vehicles. So these are vehicles that are not required to be inspected. First one we're going to talk about is a SME. That's a special mobile equipment. We went through that definition in prior modules. If you're unaware, an SME is an SME plate. So to be an SME plated vehicle, they are exempt or not required to be inspected. Number two, we have the implements. They're implements of husbandry. They're more of the farm equipment. So for the implements of husbandry, we have 4 categories. I just want to throw them at you. There's field equipment, other vehicles, trailers, and of course agricultural equipment. So just 4 types of categories. Again, these are exempt. They're not required to be inspected. Number 3 is a towed vehicle. That's pretty common sense. You can tow a vehicle forward, you can tow it backward. But if you're towing a vehicle, it's not required to have a current certificate of inspection or a sticker itself. Next one, if you're doing the road test. So when you do the road test portion for the safety inspection, you're required at some point to do the road test. We'll get further into that in chapter D. But for now, what's important to understand is you can do the road test before, after, or both, okay, for the inspection. So if the mechanic is doing the road test, the vehicle is not required to have a current safety inspection sticker. Number 5 on the exempt list is a trailer. We talked about trailers already. So if the trailer is registered at 3,000 or less, it's exempt. It's not required to be safety inspected. So if it's 3001 on the registration card, it gets inspected. Moped, we all wear the moped. Mopeds are exempt from inspection. If it's a bank coming back for their car because you didn't pay the bill, it could be an expired sticker. They're not going to stop the repossessor and say, hey, we're going to cite you. Manufacturer example here is that we got a big fire truck manufacturer up in PA here called KME. KME's out road testing fire trucks for the purpose of manufacture. They're exempt. An Army vehicle, so anything to do with the National Guard or the Army Reserve that's in a local unit here, those vehicles are exempt from having a current certificate of inspection. And last but not least, if you have an antique vehicle, so if the antique is titled and registered as an antique, it's exempt from inspection. Last but not least here, I want to talk about all the way back to August 92, there's a bulletin that has to do with the customer. So if the customer's taking the vehicle to the inspection station and the sticker is not more than 10 days expired, okay, from the original date of expiration, so up to the 10th day of the month, they could drive their vehicle as long as they have an appointment to the inspection station. So I threw that on there just so you're aware. It's a bulletin all the way back to August 92, so the customer will not be cited for taking their expired vehicle or trailer or bike to an inspection station for an appointment. Moving on here, let's get into some more information here outside of the exempt vehicles. We'll talk about the semi-annual inspection. So real important, there's two bulletins. We have one from April 99 and we have one from May of 99. Bulletins are great information. They take real world examples and apply them to publication 45, which is more or less a legal document. Subchapter Chapters 175 from PA Code Title 75 is publication 45. So the bulletins are great resources. The DMV website has all the bulletins back to about 2000. If you need the older ones that have great information, give me an email. I'll make sure you get it. So semi-annual school vehicles. So if a school, for example, I worked at the Lehigh County Votech for a few years. We had a lot of vehicles. Administrators drove them, transported students, visited students. Those vehicles got inspected semi-annually. So, two important bulletins. Anything that transports a kid gets inspected twice a year. So, while we're talking about that, let's talk about another bulletin the following month, May of 99. We look at this bulletin, and there's a question here regarding emission inspecting a vehicle. For example, a Chevrolet wagon that the school owns that was transporting students. It's required to be inspected semi-annual. The question is, should the emission inspection be done twice a year? No, it's not required. So right there, it's important to understand that the school vehicle is required for emission inspection, and as part of the emission inspection, the safety sticker has to be updated first or renewed. But what's important to understand is you do not have to do the emission inspection twice, only the safety. May of 99, bulletin right from Jim Rohal. Let's continue on here with the 10-day rule. So take your vehicle down to Florida for the winter, enjoy your vacation. You come back, you got 10 days, the same as if you re-entered from out of state or if you just bought the vehicle brand new. It's called the 10-day rule, okay? Remember that. Out of state, yes, we talked about this before. I have a bulletin. Again, we discussed this previously, I believe in Module 2. So if someone from out of state wants their vehicle inspected, absolutely we could inspect it for them. We could put the sticker on. What's important to understand is if they have an out-of-state inspection sticker, even if it's expired, we can't remove it. Okay, we can inspect it or put our sticker on as long as it passes required equipment, the inspection procedure. We could update a PA sticker on an out-of-state vehicle. So April 95 is a bulletin. Now, one other thing I wanted to point out here. If the vehicle does, for example, it has a military ID, a DOD sticker on the windshield for this out-of-state vehicle, which you normally see, it still will pass with that sticker on the windshield, which normally it wouldn't pass with a sticker. So that's, hey, November 87. That's an old one. You could have that DOD sticker. Or like me, I worked in Baghdad on a Department of State location. So you may have a sticker for DOS. You may have Department of Interior. Whatever the scenario is, it's going to fly by with PennDOT inspected for them. For newly purchased vehicles, like I said, if someone moved into an IM county, this is real important information here. Once the current safety sticker expires, okay? Safety sticker, not registration. Once the current safety sticker expires, then that vehicle now becomes eligible or required to have an emission inspection. Could be a little tricky here when we talk about windshield replacements. In the next modules coming up, I'll discuss that little scenario there. But for now, just so you know, after the the safety expires, emissions required. And don't update the safety without updating emissions. Okay, we talked about that bulletin. Let's continue on here. I think we got one last one. Oh, fire trucks. If you got a fire truck, guess what? Once a year it gets inspected. No matter what the gross vehicle weight is, no matter the scenario, once a year. I have a great bulletin here. It goes all the way back to June of '86. All the fire, if it has a fire truck plate, fire apparatus plate, once a year. And again, if you're an EVT tech, you can fill out the paperwork. That thing has to conform to NFPA 1911 for vehicle equipment standards. So it's also going to get a yearly pump test, vehicle test. Okay, good information here. So let's talk about one thing here quick in our last minute. I had a question here from Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. It's referring to our enhanced vehicle safety inspection, publication 645, which was added to Schuylkill County because it's one of the 42 counties that added the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 components here that get checked and appear to be working for the safety inspection. So the question was, hey, I have an 97, I have a 97 Chevrolet CK, it's a K truck, 1500 series, and it has a 6.5 liter diesel, turbo diesel, with an S-code engine. So it's a 1500 series with an S-code. That means it has an EGR valve. With the EGR valve disconnected, will this vehicle pass inspection? I'm told it will not. Well, it's an 87, and it's registered in Schuylkill County, so it gets a safety inspection, okay? Normal registration for a light truck. With the amended items that need to be inspected, it goes back to year 1. So the first truck that was ever built is required to be inspected for these items. Well, Chevrolet in 82 started putting EGR valves on diesel trucks. Actually, they were on 2500 series. The CK for 97, the half-ton, had an EGR valve. So the important thing to understand is, with these items that are added to the inspection criteria, it also applies to a diesel. So for the non-IM counties in Pennsylvania, goes back to year 1. So yes, that 97 Chevy truck with the EGR valve disconnected and probably the check engine light on that vehicle will fail safety inspection. So just to recap everything here, down in Adams County, Pennsylvania, and we're celebrating this month all the way back to 1898, back up in Schuylkill County where I'm from, the first vehicle that was sold. I'm sure it's still not there, but it's sold to owner in Port Carbon. So let's just recap what we talked about. We went over the 10 exempt vehicles that are not required to have a certificate of inspection on a highway. We talked about the 10-day rule for the customer. We talked about semi-inspection, semi-annual inspection, certificate of inspection. 2 bulletins here. Talked about the 10-day rule for the re-enter and the newly purchased. Hey, if you go to Florida, you're down there, you might as well stay down there. It's not that pretty up there. We talked about the out-of-state inspection. I am required, so when someone moves into another county that's required, hey, once that safety sticker expired, now you're required to get the emissions. Okay, we talked about the school vehicle, not requiring the emissions twice a year, and we talked about the fire truck. So, again, you have questions for me, reach out to me, seriousautotrading@yahoo.com. You could follow me on LinkedIn or give me a shout out on YouTube. Again, have a good night, and see you guys for Chapter B.